was the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I was absolutely dead wrong on this one. I picked Detroit, who I mentioned on Bryson's Best 10 on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. Obviously, this week's edition will be coming in a couple of days as well. I said that the Detroit Lions, it was easy for me to say that they were the best team in football. Their only loss that season at that point had come in overtime against a very good Seattle team. They'd beaten the Chiefs on the road. This defense had looked night and day different than what it did a year ago. Jared Goff was playing good football, and I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of what ifs with the Ravens. Like, hey, if the Ravens defense can put together a complete game, if the Ravens offense, if receivers could catch passes for once, if Lamar could get the consistency from those guys, then they can beat Detroit. I'm like, okay, I've seen Detroit do this consistently. Not necessarily Baltimore. Boy, was I wrong. Yeah, we saw Baltimore do it yesterday. How about 38-6? In M&T Bank Stadium? I know my man Devin, who we get on each other often because he's a Ravens fan. I'm a Steelers fan. There's some strong disagreements there, but I guarantee you Devin was beside himself. But Lamar Jackson, simply put, was absolutely spectacular in this matchup against the Detroit. Again, more on sort of my outlook for him and other quarterbacks in just a second. But Lamar, 21-27, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, also ran for another, so counted for 4 touchdowns of the day, had a QBR 0-100 of 95, and a passer rating of 155.8. So Lamar literally could not have played better in this game to get the Ravens to a W, to get the Ravens to a 5-2 record at the top of the AFC North, which is a brutal division right now. Let's go Steelers. But here's the thing with Lamar Jackson. I heard this briefly posed on First Take this morning on ESPN. And a similar question was sort of raised 2 weeks ago, and there was a different answer given, but whatever. About, looks like the Ravens have gotten their money's worth for Lamar. Yeah, duh. They've been getting their money's worth for Lamar Jackson. Now, obviously, this is the first year of this long contract that he signed this offseason, but it never ceases to amaze me that once we get into these cycles of quarterbacks in negotiations with teams, and sometimes it'll drag out a little bit. It dragged out a long time for Dak. It's dragged out a long time for Lamar Jackson. And frankly, I thought it dragged out a little too long on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, is that we start these discussions. Well, is this guy asking for too much? Is the organization right for standing their ground to a certain extent? No, you pay these guys. Now, obviously, Lamar didn't get exactly what he wanted. He didn't get all the guaranteed money he wanted. Him and the Ravens were able to come to an agreement on a very lucrative deal, to say the very least, over $200 million to be exact. But I was thinking about this and thinking about Lamar's performance, and Lamar, I think right now is along there with right there with Patrick Mahomes as the MVP frontrunners. By the way, Lamar himself has an MVP on his resume, similar to Mahomes, which he won just 4 years ago. But I was thinking about, okay, what quarterbacks would come to the table if I was a general manager, if I was an owner? What quarterbacks are going to come to the table? And I'm like, you know what? Name your price. Whatever the market bears, wherever the market's trending, you name your price, buddy, and we'll get this worked out. And sorry, what I was thinking is, I think it's narrowed down to just a few people, 8 people, and not a few, literally, not 3 people, but 8 people, where I'm like, you know what? I've seen them when the fit hits the sham, when stuff is not going well, and defense is not playing well, or I got an offensive lineman down, or he's not getting help from his running game. Like, everything isn't perfect. Not that all things are going wrong, because it's hard to win games that way, but stuff just isn't going your way. Maybe you're dealing with the coaching deficiency. I've seen you win in the playoffs before. I've seen you, be successful in the regular season with bad teams to get to the playoffs. I've seen these quarterbacks do this, and I narrowed it down to 8. These are 8 quarterbacks that I'm like, I put the graphic up for the YouTube audience. I'll read it off for the podcast audience. 8 guys that I'm like, name your price. As long as it's within the realm of what the quarterback market's trending to, name your price. Here are the guys. Where's the list? Do we have the list up here? Here it is. Mahomes, Burrow, Mahomes, Burrow, Lawrence, Hurts, Lamar, Dak, Herbert, Josh Allen. That's it. Tua, never seen Tua play a playoff game. He hasn't proven to me, knock on wood, that he can this year. He hasn't proven to me that he can stay healthy over the course of a season. Jared Goff, love Goff, think he's a top 10 quarterback, but we saw yesterday, and we've always known this about Goff, but we certainly saw yesterday that when the pocket isn't clean, He can't make plays outside the pocket. He's kind of the last of a dying breed of just pure pocket passers. Now, the good news for Goff is he plays behind one of the best offensive lines in football, and so the pocket usually is clean. When it's not, he gets exposed. He can't. We've never seen Jared Goff when under dire circumstances carry a team. Certainly to a lot of wins. Last time it was dire, Detroit won 3 games. We see Mahomes do it with either injuries to himself or to others with below-average receiving cores. We've seen Burrow do it with bad offensive lines. He's dealing with another one this year. We've seen Lawrence do it down 27-0 against the Los Angeles Chargers, come back and win. We've seen him get a 2-6 Jaguars team to the playoffs. We've seen Justin Herbert with... The man is yet to have a good offensive coordinator through 4 years of his career, yet to have a competent head coach. Although I liked Anthony Lynn, he wasn't great. He's certainly better than what he's got now in Brandon Staley. We've seen Justin Herbert be successful. And I'll defend Justin Herbert a little later. I think he's still an incredible talent. We have seen people like, what about Aaron Rodgers? He's 40 years old, coming off an Achilles surgery. He's not a blank check guy at this stage of his career. I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers is in the stage where he's like, I should say he doesn't want to be a blank check guy, but he took a pay cut for the Jets. He took a pay cut literally just so the Jets can put more talent because he's like, man, I made my money. I've carried enough teams. I want the help around me now. Again, this is not to imply that these quarterbacks are dealing with bad circumstances every Sunday, but I know if things are going wrong, I'm confident in them that they can get it done in the long run and get me a win if things aren't going 100%. And that's what Lamar's proven. Lamar's gotten to the playoffs literally with teams. I mean, last year, Rashard Bateman. The number 1 receiver. Now, shocker, him OBJ. You give him Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, who was never a superstar. Suddenly, Nelson Aguilar is like a household name. You already have Mark Andrews, who's one of the premier tight ends in football. You give him a great defense. Oh, what do you know? Lamar Jackson's pretty good. Lamar Jackson is, and this is the narrative about Lamar that drives me absolutely insane. This notion that he's not an elite pocket passer. How many times yesterday, and frankly, how many times this season, last season, the season before that, have we seen him make tough, high, low percentage throws? Not low percentage throw, but low percentage, completion percentage targets, where it's tight man-to-man coverage or having to fit the window in a zone. And we've seen Lamar make those throws standing in the pocket. We know what he can do outside the pocket. We know what he can do with his legs. Lamar's a top 5 guy. I mean, again, to me, the 3 best in this order, Mahomes, Burrow, Lawrence. I think Lawrence is special. We can have that discussion another day. I'd take Lamar over Dak, and I love Dak Prescott. Dak can't do what Lamar can do in terms of his legs. He can't. And for the record, Dak, while he's had bad receiving cores, never as bad as what Lamar had up until this year. Lamar had one of the 5 or 6 worst skill position groups, I think, in football the last few years, and he somehow managed to get to the playoffs year after year after year. Dak, we've never seen him deal with that. Hurts, love Hurts. He's not the passer Lamar is, and he's not as great of an athlete as Jalen is, not the athlete Lamar is. Like, I think right now you got to slate in Lamar as like that 4th guy. Like, the only guys I would definitively take above him, I'd take Mahomes over everybody, obviously. Burrow, because we've seen Burrow with some terrible offensive lines get to the darn Super Bowl. And Trevor Lawrence. That's it. That's where the list ends. He's a special player, man. He really is. I love watching Lamar Jackson. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.